Part 32. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Fuzetuo. Chapter 311. Xuan felt that Zhang Chen was unreasonable. After getting up and brushing off the dust, he took several Dangyuta disciples and left the sect to carry out his mission and go to the place where the alchemists disappeared. Along the way, he was extremely cautious, bypassing the dense forests and small paths that were rarely visited by people, and only took the main road. The sphere of influence of Dangyuta is very large, covering an area of nearly 1,000 miles. Although Xuan is a cultivator of the upper 4 realms and can fly in the air, the cultivation of Dangyuta disciples is relatively low, so he has to walk. It took several days for everyone to reach the destination. There were dangerous peaks on both sides in front, and only a narrow path passed through it. There were 3 people waiting for a long time at the path, 2 men and 1 woman, all of whom had a strong breath and were all in the realm of creation. After seeing these 3 people, Xuan breathed a sigh of relief. The alchemists were not strong in combat, and they knew that this trip was dangerous, so these 3 people were foreign aid invited by Dangyuta to assist in the investigation. Old Zhang, thank you for your help this time. Xuan stepped forward quickly and bowed to the old man in the center. Hearing this, the man called Old Zhang immediately bowed in return and said, Master Su, you are too kind. We already owe Dangyuta a favor, so why should we say trouble? That's right, the male cultivator next to him said, besides, they are just a group of lunatics. The 3 of us can kill them with a flip of our hands. Xuan had no doubt about this. After all, in the case that cultivators of the divine power realm and above cannot be born, these 3 people are indeed extremely powerful. Especially Old Zhang, whose cultivation is in the late stage of the creation realm. He is only 1 step away from the divine power realm. After the matter is done, Dangyuta will give you a big reward, Xuan said again. You're welcome, you're welcome. When he heard that there was a big reward, although Old Zhang refused, his old face was already full of smiles. The other 2 were also excited. Didn't they come from afar just for Dangyuta's reward? Let's get back to the point. After straightening his expression, Xuan asked, do you 3 have a plan for this investigation? No need for a plan. Just kill those lunatics, the male cultivator replied in seconds. Although the lunatics don't play by the rules, they can't make any waves under their absolute strength, the female cultivator nodded in agreement. Hey, don't take it lightly, Zhang Lao stroked his beard and said, just now, I looked at the situation of the 2 peaks in front of me from the sky. Guess what I found? What? Xuan asked. Spirit boats, Zhang Lao narrowed his eyes, and there are quite a few of them, dozens of them, and they are all high-grade spirit boats with extremely fast speeds. Xuan was shocked. Although many forces and sects in the central region have spirit boats, there are definitely not many who can take out dozens of them at a time. In addition, I also saw many lunatics who were hiding their heads and showing their tails, all wearing black clothes. These lunatics acted in an orderly manner and obeyed orders, Zhang Lao said again. Xuan was even more shocked. The expressions of the male and female monks who had just spoken out loudly also became serious in an instant. Everyone thought it was just a group of lunatics making trouble. But from this situation, it can be seen that these are not ordinary lunatics at all. Instead, they are a group of organized and disciplined lunatics. Not only that, according to the alchemist who escaped by chance, this group of lunatics also likes to sneak attack from the east and attack from the west, and stab people from behind. There are endless methods, which makes people unable to guard against, Zhang Lao said again. Hiss. Everyone took a breath at the same time. Organized and disciplined lunatics? They also know how to sneak attack and stab people? This is really unbelievable. I think, you wait here first, I will go up and challenge you to fight and test the truth. I have a higher cultivation level, so I can retreat even if I encounter danger. Zhang Lao finally told his plan. Xuan thought it was okay. The two monks, one man and one woman, frowned slightly, but still nodded. This made Zhang Lao smile with satisfaction. Although what he said just now was true, he was not afraid at all. His plan was very simple. The reward was divided among 3 people, and the income was not much. But if he went up alone and killed all those crazy people, wouldn't most of the reward belong to him? Just thinking about it made me a little excited. Ahem. Wait a minute, I'll be back soon. After saying this, Zhang Lao flew into the air in front of everyone. His speed was very fast. In just an instant, he turned into a stream of light and finally stood above the 2 peaks. Who dares to fight with me, you crazy people? He shouted with his cultivation. The voice was mixed with spiritual energy, rolling away, and set off an endless spiritual hurricane. Wherever the hurricane went, dust and smoke rose up, and the grass and trees bowed their heads, which was a mighty momentum. But no one paid attention to him. Could it be that these crazy people were scared because they realized that my cultivation was too high? Zhang Lao frowned and whispered. The more he thought about it, the more possible it seemed. After restraining his breath, he shouted again, I never bully the weak. If you are afraid, then. He didn't finish his words. With a swish, a figure in black clothes, carrying an ancient sword box, came out from the top of the peak below and finally stood in front of the elder. Being able to fly in the air means that all the people coming are in the upper 4 realms. This made the elder's pupils shrink. After a careful investigation, he was struck by lightning. Not just the upper 4 realms. The cultivator in front of him was actually a late-stage cultivator in the 2nd realm of the upper 4 realms, the realm of creation. At this moment, Zhang Lao was a little panicked. He didn't expect that among this group of crazy people, there was someone with the same cultivation as him. But so what? He has been immersed in the realm of creation for 100 years and has never been afraid of monks of the same level. What's more, there is a sense of hostility in the eyes of the monk in front of him. He is a madman who has lost his mind. Haha, let's fight, Zhang Lao laughed, full of fighting spirit. Hearing this, the black-clothed monk who arrived also opened his sword box, looking like he was going to fight for 300 rounds. The battle is about to break out. Both of them are holding spiritual weapons and rushing towards each other. But just as the two are about to touch, another black-clothed figure rushes out from the top of the peak without leaving a trace. This person's face is covered with spiritual power, and it looks distorted. Judging from her posture, she should be a woman, but her figure is extremely burly, and she rides a red-haired lion. While all of Zhang Lao's attention is focused on the upcoming battle, this person jumped up from the lion's back, rolled a few times in the air, and kicked the elder on the back. Puff! The powerful force made Zhang Lao spit out a mouthful of blood. Before he could react to what happened, he fell from the sky like a cannonball, and finally hit the peak under his feet. He smashed a deep pit several feet deep, and was half dead in an instant. Shameless, sneak attack, Zhang Lao cursed. As soon as he finished speaking, he was dragged out of the deep pit by several black-clothed figures, and after his hands and feet were tied, he was moved to the spirit boat beside him. This scene was in sight. Xuan and others were all pale with shock. They were all amazed in their hearts. This group of lunatics really know how to sneak attack. The cooperation of these black-clothed men can be described as flowing water. It's terrible, Xuan said in horror. Hearing this, the others kept nodding. Not only terrible, but also absolutely good at sneak attacks. You can tell at a glance that they often do this kind of thing. And when everyone was in shock, no one noticed it. Dozens of monks who were also dressed in black, with the help of some kind of breath-retaining technique, had quietly moved behind them without knowing when. Bang! Bang! Muffled sounds rang out one after another. Xuan felt his eyes go dark and he lost consciousness in an instant. Before he fainted, he seemed to hear someone shouting. Juyan sect, invincible. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 312. When Xuan woke up from his coma, he found himself in a narrow secret room. Look around. Including him, there were a total of more than 10 people in the secret room, all of whom were alchemists. Around the secret room, there were several Juyan sect disciples waiting, and at the front, there was a middle-aged man carrying a sword box and an old man holding a copper-colored spiritual realm. The elders of Danggu Pagoda are usually responsible for transactions with other sects. Diamond sued. Therefore, Xuan recognized at a glance that the middle-aged man was Zhang Lingfeng, the master of Jianfeng Peak of Juyan sect. And that old man is the ancestor of Lanyun sect, Fan Tong. At this moment, Xuan suddenly realized. No wonder there are extremely fast spirit boats parked on the top of the 2 peaks, originally to transport him and other alchemists here. And this place is the Juyan sect. No, Juyan demon sect. Zhang Lingfeng. Is the Juyan demon sect planning to start a war with our Danggu Pagoda? Xuan asked loudly. Start a war? The Empress has ordered that on the eve of the sect competition, no sect or force will seek quarrels or cause trouble. How can I, the 9-year demon sect, disobey it? Zhang Lingfeng said with a smile. You are here just to observe something, he added. What? Xuan asked. The truth about this world. Xuan was speechless and cursed madman in his heart. In fact, there have been rumors for a long time that after Juyan sect became a demon sect, it acted strangely, and its members may have gone crazy. Originally Xuan didn't believe it. After all, the ancestor of Juyan dominates the central territory, and Juyan sect was once a first-class sect. The Zhang family and Zhang Chen, no matter how weird their methods are, logically cannot make the entire sect crazy. But at this moment, with the facts before his eyes, Xuan had no choice but to believe it. He regretted it. If he had known that he would be caught by madmen on this trip, he would not have come here even if he had a knife held to his neck. But when Xuan lost all hope, Zhang Lingfeng sat cross-legged, and all the scenes related to the 9th life were projected on the screen by the spiritual realm in Fan Tong's hand. Originally, in order to witness the pain of others with his own eyes, the ancestor of Juyan did everything himself by projecting memories. But this time Juyan sect arrested too many alchemists, hundreds of them. Even the ancestor of Juyan sect felt powerless for a long time, so he asked the peak masters of Juyan sect to do it for him. As the images on the screen continue to change, Xuan's expression also changes. From confusion at the beginning, to shock, to anger. He expressed his sincere sympathy for Zhang Chen's suffering, but what touched him the most was his own ending in the previous 9 lives. In every alchemy conference, he would be slapped in the face by Lin Feng. In every life, he would be expelled from the sect by Dang Gyuda because of Lin Feng's reputation being ruined and becoming the laughingstock of Dang Gyuda. Xuan has no big ambitions. He never participated in the struggle for power in Dang Gyuda, and he never did anything bad. 9 reincarnations, the reason why Shi Ning was prevented from having a good impression of Lin Feng was because he was aware of Lin Feng's true nature. But even a small person like him was labeled as a villain by God. It became a stepping stone for the destined child. In the end, he ended up in ruins. Ah! God is unfair. After the 9th world scene disappeared, Xuan roared madly and trembled with rage. Obvious. He is crazy. Upon seeing this, Zhang Lingfeng and Fan Tong looked at each other with satisfied expressions. Although the alchemists were kidnapped indiscriminately this time, not all alchemists had watched memories of the 9th life. Follow the instructions of Juyan ancestor. Those who are qualified to watch memories of the 9th life must meet several conditions. 1. it's about yourself. This refers to the monks who were targeted by God, slapped in the face by Lin Feng, or died because of Lin Feng in the 9 reincarnations. 2. Have kind thoughts. This refers to a person who considers himself to be on the right path and lives his life toward the right path. These two types of people can deeply feel the injustice of the sky, and find that the right path they insist on is just a joke. Thus, you can feel the pain even more. Just like the ancestor of Julian. Immediately afterwards, Zhang Lingfeng remembered another instruction from the Julian patriarch. All the elders in the alchemy pagoda except Yu Shi must be kidnapped before the alchemy conference begins. If possible, Shining, the tower owner, cannot let it go. In 9 reincarnations, Dan Gyuda has been against Zhang Chen in every life, and has even become an indirect driver of the Zhang family's downfall. This group of people must feel the pain. Previously, Zhang Lingfeng and others were at a loss what to do. After all, the people of Dangyuda were refining elixirs behind closed doors in the sect every day and rarely went out. They couldn't just rush into Dangyuda and kidnap people. But now, glancing at Xuan, who was still howling, Zhang Lingfeng felt stable. After learning about this plan, Xuan expressed his agreement. Such pain really needs to be experienced by other students. The first thing he thought of was his compatriot, Su Ping. Su Ping and Xuan are both elders of Danggu Pagoda, but the difference is that Su Ping is a famous great elder sect, and only the great elder Yu Shi follows his lead. Without any hesitation, Xuan immediately took out a blank jade slip and carved a paragraph into it with his spiritual consciousness. My mother is critically ill, please come home quickly. A few days passed in the blink of an eye. Su Ping left Danggu Pagoda in a hurry, but he was knocked unconscious and tied up after only walking 100 miles. The reason why this person only follows Yu Shi's lead is because he has an upright nature and has always believed in the character of the great elder Yu Shi. But after watching the memories of the 9 lives, Su Ping found out. Yu Shi? He was just a rat under the control of God, who was under the banner of righteousness but acted extremely dirty. In order to let the fellow disciples see the true face of Yu Shi, and also to let the fellow disciples know the truth of the matter. Without any hesitation, Su Ping imitated Xuan, took out several blank jade slips, and began to make up stories. Second elder, on my way home, I saw your mother being kidnapped by a villain. Third elder, on my way home, I saw your father being killed by a demon. Fifth elder, on my way home, I saw your sister entering a brothel. Sixth elder, on my way home, I saw your son died tragically on the street. Seventh elder, on my way home, I saw your wife and the old Wang next door. Eighth elder. Soon, the elders of Dangyuda left Dangyuda one after another with sullen faces. Everyone went home, but on the way home, they were knocked unconscious one after another and brought to Julian sect to watch the 9 generations rewind. It took only more than 10 days. Except for Shilin and Yu Shi, all the high-level people in the entire Danggu Tower went crazy. This day, the elders of Danggu Tower and several peak masters of Julian sect were happy and often talked about the whole family of God. Everyone regretted meeting each other too late and drank happily. After 3 rounds of wine, Xuan suddenly covered his face and cried. Zhang Lingfeng was puzzled and asked, now that we all know the truth and find our original heart, why is brother Su crying? Wu. Xuan covered his face and replied after a long time, I cry for the tower master. She has no father or mother, no relatives or friends, and has been lonely since childhood. It's really impossible to deceive her. Hearing this, the elders of Danggu Tower burst into tears and beat their chests and stamped their feet. Only Zhang Lingfeng smiled slyly, raised his glass and said in a handsome voice, who said that junior sister she has no relatives or friends. Have you seen Xiao Hong Ai who has been in seclusion since returning to Julian sect? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 313. Juyan Sect, Zhufeng. In the Peak Master Pavilion, Xuanhuan lied that she was in seclusion, but in fact she was meditating for days. In the past, her attention was all on Zhang Chen, and she was indifferent to other people's affairs. But now that Zhang Chen was not there, she discovered a problem. Something was wrong. No matter how wrong the Zhufeng disciples were, or the entire Juyan demon sect, they were all very wrong. Originally, no matter how wrong the sect was, Xuanhuan didn't bother to care. After all, in this life, she was all focused on Zhang Chen. But she found out again. All this seemed to be related to Zhang Chen. First, as early as in Hanjing City, she found that wherever Zhang Chen went, there were madmen. Secondly, since Zhang Chen went to Danggu Tower to prepare for the alchemy conference, the peak masters and disciples of Juyan demon sect often went out, and every time they returned, they would bring back many alchemists. Although Zhang Lingfeng and others acted very carefully, they were still noticed by Xuanhuan. After all, Xuanhuan was already in the realm of supernatural powers at this time. As long as she was interested, she could see everything the sect did. She had investigated secretly. She found that the abducted alchemists were all sent to a secret room transformed from the sect's prison. They were fine when they went in, but they all went crazy after they came out. No one would believe that there was nothing wrong with this. Xuanhuan thought secretly. In the Juyan sect, Zhang Lianyu went crazy first, and then Lin Mubai, Qingning, Muqui, and others went crazy one after another. In the end, the whole sect went crazy. Even the Juyan patriarch was extremely abnormal. She had not paid attention to it before, but after discovering that it might be related to Zhang Chen, she went to the Juyan patriarch to ask a few days ago to find out what was going on. Recalling the Juyan patriarch's demeanor, tone, and expression at that time. "Ancestor, there is a problem," Xuanhuan was sure. She couldn't say what the specific problem was. "It's just a feeling." When Juyan patriarch spoke to her, not only was his eyes erratic, his words were incoherent, but he even talked about something else. It was just like the guilty conscience when he did something bad. Suddenly, Xuanhuan had a flash of inspiration in her mind. "Hey!" Accompanied by a faint sigh, an illusory figure floated in. It was Juyan patriarch. "Hong I need you to write a sound transmission jade slip to trick Shilin out of Danggu Tower," Juyan patriarch said bluntly. Forging a sound transmission jade slip is a good way, but this method is easy to detect. If Shilin's vigilance is aroused, it will be difficult to trick her out. In fact, Juyan patriarch also knew. Many things cannot be concealed. Nowadays, there are more and more crazy people. I believe that not only Xuanhuan, but also Zhang Lianyu and others will soon notice something strange. Therefore, this time, it is a showdown. Seeing Xuanhuan puzzled. "Ah." With another long sigh, Juyan patriarch said earnestly, "Now that things have come to this, I won't hide it from you." After that, he told everything one by one. The more Xuanhuan listened, the more shocked she was. She never expected that, in addition to herself, not only disciples such as Zhang Lianyu, but even the patriarch had watched the 9 Life Recall, and several times. What's more unexpected? The patriarch actually used the recalling treasure mirror to force more cultivators to watch, and drove countless people crazy. "Patriarch, you." After being shocked, Xuanhuan took a deep breath and said seriously, "Next time you do this kind of thing, please take me with you." Of course, Juyan patriarch stroked his beard and smiled. Xuanhuan's reaction was within his expectations. After all, This matter is beneficial to Jiang Chen. If there is any harm, it is that the memory of the 9 lives is exposed, which will be a bit embarrassing. I didn't say it before, but it was not necessary. After understanding everything, Xuanhuan took out a jade slip without any hesitation, engraved the information on it, and then had the elders of Dangu Pagoda pass it to Shilin. Dangu Pagoda, the main hall of the pagoda. In the huge hall, there were only Shilin and Yushi, staring at each other. Confused and angry. What confused them was, how come all the elders of Dangu Pagoda disappeared? In this case, how can the alchemy conference be held? And what made them angry was the ancient pagoda alchemy scroll, which records the heritage of Dangu Pagoda for thousands of years, records many high-level alchemy recipes, alchemy skills, and experience, was stolen. You know, the reward for winning the alchemy conference this time is to read the ancient pagoda alchemy scroll. Jiang Chen. It must be Jiang Chen, Yushi was furious. Since Jiang Chen came to Dangu Pagoda, the elders disappeared one after another, and then the Dan scroll was stolen. All this must be related to him. Nonsense, Shilin frowned and retorted, I have been using my spiritual sense to explore Jiang Chen's whereabouts recently. He has basically never gone out. Besides, the Dan scroll of the ancient pagoda was kept by the great elder. How can you be responsible? She asked again. Yushi was speechless. This matter is strange. The location of the Dan scroll of the ancient pagoda not only has several high-level formations, but also is locked in a treasure chest made of ancient wood that even a nirvana cultivator cannot destroy. But even so, it was still stolen. No matter the formation or the treasure chest, there is no sign of being destroyed. It's like it disappeared out of thin air. The good news is, although the Dan scroll of the ancient pagoda was stolen, as long as it takes some time, Yushi can still write another volume with the memory in his mind. And the bad news is, if such a treasure flows into other sects and forces, it will undoubtedly be the heritage of Dangu Tower for thousands of years. Hateful, Yushi gritted his teeth in hatred. Cancel the alchemy conference. Shilin rubbed his forehead, his tone slightly tired. Cancel? How can this be done? Yushi jumped up in shock. This is a grand event held by Dangu Tower, a stage for his apprentice Lin Feng to rise. How can it be cancelled? Now that the opening date of the alchemy conference has passed, if it is not cancelled, the people from the Imperial Pavilion will come, Shilin said again with a serious expression. Yushi was speechless again. If the people from the Imperial Pavilion come and find that there is no one at the alchemy conference, it will be a disgrace to Dangu Tower. Give me a few more days, I will send someone to investigate in detail. Yushi gritted his teeth. Whatever you want. Shilin waved his hand, too lazy to argue. Just as the two stood up at the same time and were about to leave, suddenly, a disciple of Dangu Pagoda arrived and said excitedly, Tower Master, Great Elder. They are here, all of them are here. What are you here? Explain clearly, Yushi asked. Alchemists. Alchemists are here. The disciple who arrived reorganized his words and replied, we were ordered to patrol outside and found that hundreds of miles away, a total of hundreds of alchemists came together. Really? Yushi jumped up excitedly. Although there were thousands of alchemists participating in previous alchemy conferences, there were only 100 this time, but this was enough. As long as the alchemy conference is not cancelled, it will be fine. Not only that, the gatekeeper disciple just reported that many missing elders also turned back. They have reached the border of Dangu Pagoda, the disciple who arrived said again. Haha. Hearing this, Yushi laughed immediately, they are back, they are all back. After laughing, he instructed the disciples who arrived, announce the entire central region. 3 days later, the alchemy conference will officially start. Invite the Imperial Pavilion and various sects to watch together. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 314. After setting the date for the alchemy conference, Xilin and Yushi went to the sect to welcome a group of alchemists and elders a few hours later. Originally, this kind of thing did not require the two to do it themselves, but this alchemy conference was full of twists and turns, and they did not want to have any more trouble. When the two arrived at the sect, they found a familiar man in black, surrounded by 2 men, a woman and a tiger, with his back to them, looking into the distance. It was Zhang Chen and others. "What are you doing here?" Yushi scolded Zhang Chen the moment he saw him. "Guess." Zhang Chen turned his head, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. This was the first time he saw Yushi in this life, but he could not restrain his murderous intent. If he did not need to participate in the alchemy conference, and Xilin was beside him at this time, he would definitely take action directly. Like Zhang Chen, Qingning and Mu Kuei could not hold back their murderous intent. "Elder Yu, Qingning thinks you are in danger." Qingning glanced at Xilin and smiled. "I will beat you up with one punch sooner or later," Mu Kuei said bluntly. Yushi was so angry when he heard the words of the two. "Grand Elder, why are you arguing with them?" Xilin tried to smooth things over and lowered his voice. "These two are crazy, they are just talking nonsense." Yushi thought about it and it was right. Although his cultivation was not high, he was a 7th grade alchemist and the actual ruler of Dangu Tower. Here, arguing with 2 lunatics was indeed a loss of status. Moreover, the alchemists were about to arrive, so it was really not appropriate to do anything at this time. Humph. Thinking of this, Yushi snorted coldly. At the same time, hundreds of alchemists arrived one after another. The alchemist Rong Junlin, who was walking in the front, was quite imposing in his gestures. Although he was young, he was a 6th grade alchemist and his cultivation was also in the Tianyuan realm. This man is called Dong Yao, the heir of Linjiao Mountain, a 2nd-rate sect. He can achieve such a level of cultivation thanks to my guidance and the gift of the 6th grade spiritual fire a few years ago. Yushi stroked his beard and smiled. Dangyuta has an extraordinary status, and many sects are willing to belong to it, and Linjiao Mountain is one of them. Dangyuta is never stingy with his subordinates, and often gives some guidance and funding. A few years ago, when Dong Yao visited Dangyuta with his master, he was personally received by Yushi. It was at that time that Yushi gave Dong Yao some advice on the way of alchemy, and even gave him the 6th grade spiritual fire before leaving. Seeing Dong Yao at this moment, Yushi sighed. Dong Yao is upright by nature and has an excellent talent for alchemy, which once made him want to accept a disciple. But Yushi also knew that Dong Yao was the only talented disciple of Linjiao Mountain, and Linjiao Mountain would definitely not let him go. Moreover, with Dong Yao's character, he would not abandon his master. Helplessly, Yushi could only establish a good relationship with him by giving advice and gifts. And the reason why he told Xilin about this was very simple. To put it bluntly, it was, "See? Not only this Dangu Tower, but also the affiliated forces of Dangu Tower are all my people." Sensing this meaning, Xilin, who had no intention of fighting for power, could only shake his head helplessly. While the two were talking, Dong Yao arrived with a group of alchemists. "My dear nephew," Yushi greeted him with a smile on his face, and said kindly, "I haven't seen you for several years." My dear nephew has not only improved his alchemy skills, but also improved his cultivation a lot. He thought. After hearing what he said, Dong Yao would look grateful and say it's all thanks to the cultivation of the great elder. Who would have thought? After seeing Yushi, Dong Yao, who was still smiling just now, suddenly stopped smiling, and then spit on the ground. Yushi was confused. Xilin and Zhang Chen were also confused. Xilin was confused because, where did they say all of them are my people? Why was he spat on as soon as they met? And Zhang Chen was confused because something is wrong. The plot is wrong again. He is familiar with the original work and has experienced 9 lives. He knows very well that in Dong Yao's eyes, Yu Shi is like a reborn parent. After taking a closer look at the shaking, Zhang Chen became more suspicious. Dong Yao's face was calm and he didn't look crazy. What he didn't know was the alchemists who came to participate in the alchemy conference this time were all crazy elites selected by Juyan Patriarch from thousands of people. These people can not only control their emotions very well, but also, if they are not stimulated, as long as they are not detected by others with spiritual sense, they will not find that they are crazy. And just when everyone was collectively confused. Pooh. 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 As the alchemists arrived one after another, each one of them would spit on the ground when passing by Yu Shi. After hundreds of spitting, Yu Shi's feet were already full of water. Who knows who was so desperate that he took advantage of Yu Shi's daze and spit a mouthful of thick phlegm directly on his face. Bold. After coming to his senses, Yu Shi was furious. He had lived for most of his life and had never been humiliated in public like this. You know. Among these hundreds of alchemists, many had received his guidance and gifts. Seeing that he was about to lose his temper, Shi Lin pinched his nose and advised him in a voice transmission, "Grand Elder, calm down. If you punish him now, no one will participate in the alchemy conference." Yu Shi thought about it and it made sense. Now the entire Central Territory has been informed that all the sects and imperial pavilions will arrive. At this juncture, we really cannot punish them arbitrarily. But he couldn't hold back his anger. A wave of anger rushed to his forehead, and he turned to Zhang Chen and yelled, "Zhang Chen! You are so presumptuous." Zhang Chen's expression suddenly darkened. He came here because he heard that all the alchemists were coming and wanted to get system rewards. Unexpectedly, Yu Shi would be treated as a soft persimmon. It's simply unbearable. With the thought, the flame blood dragon sword appeared in his hand, and strong murderous intent appeared in his eyes. Seeing this, Qingning and others were also rubbing shoulders, ready to fight. What? This is Dangu Pagoda. Do you want to act wild? Yu Shi was shocked and immediately threatened, "Zhang Chen. Although my cultivation level is not as good as yours, I can destroy you in an instant as long as I use the great formation of Dangu Pagoda, ah!" As he spoke, he let out a scream. Just now, he clearly felt that the back of his head was hit by a hard object. If it weren't for the spiritual energy in his body to protect himself, he would probably be knocked unconscious. Ding Qing looked at the ground and saw that the object that hit him was actually an alchemy cauldron. Turning around suddenly, Yu Shi looked at the alchemists behind him and asked loudly, "How outrageous! Which of you will hit me?" The alchemists collectively looked at the sky, whistled, and ignored him. The remaining stone almost broke the tooth socket. He wanted to get angry, but it was not the right moment to punish anyone severely, so he had no choice but to admit that he was unlucky. Snort. After snorting coldly, Yu Shi turned around and left with a puff of sleeves. And the moment he left, whether it was Xining, Zhang Chen, or everyone else, their eyes widened. Because everyone saw it. The moment Yu Shi turned around, hundreds of alchemy masters actually raised their own alchemy cauldrons. The next second. Bang. Ah. Bang. Ah. Although Yu Shi had spiritual energy to protect him, he was caught off guard and there were too many. He was still being smashed so hard that he screamed and scurried away. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Fu Zituo. Chapter 315. That night, the main hall of the tower. Because the elders had just returned, the hall was full of seats. Shinin was still sitting high in the tower, yawning from time to time and looking a little lazy. Presumptuous. Simply presumptuous, Yu Shi roared from below. At this time, his head was covered with bruises, he looked very embarrassed, and he was jumping up and down in anger. He scolded Dong Yao for having the heart of a wolf and the courage of a leopard. How dare you attack him, the great elder of Danggu Pagoda? But the more angry he became, the more Shining wanted to laugh. In the end, Shining couldn't hold it in any longer and burst out laughing. This made Yushi's face become even more livid, and he asked, I have devoted all my energy to the ancient alchemy pagoda. Why did the tower owner ignore it when he saw those alchemists smashing me with the alchemy cauldron? Aren't most of those alchemists yours? Shining blinked and asked, isn't this the way you people usually greet each other? Yushi was speechless. What a damn way of greeting, he was almost beaten to death. If you dwell too much on this issue, you will only make others laugh. After snorting, Yushi sat down. Tell me, where have you been while you were missing? He looked around and looked at the other elders. What the hell are you doing? Xuan rolled his eyes. Yushi was confused again. What's the situation? He knew that Xuan was interested in Shining and was the only elder who was not on his side. But Xuan had always been submissive in front of him before. Don't dare to contradict me at all. Why, have you eaten the heart of a bear and the courage of a leopard today? Yushi narrowed his eyes and winked at Su Ping beside him. Yushi's idea is simple. This Su Ping is Xuan's brother. Letting Su Ping scold him on his behalf can not only show his strong character, but also avoid falling out with Xuan. It can be said that it kills two birds with one stone. It was the same in the past. Whenever Xuan wanted to help Shining and came up with different ideas, Su Ping would scold him bloody. This time, Yushi felt that this should be the case. But who would have expected? After seeing Yushi winking at him, Su Ping sneered and said, Great Elder, are you getting sand in your eyes? Yushi is confused again. Feeling that Su Ping might not understand what he meant, he winked several times in succession. It turns out there is something wrong with the eyes, Su Ping suddenly realized and said, in that case, the great elder should quickly abdicate in favor of others and find a place to die. Hearing this, Yushi was furious. Although I don't know why Su Ping was acting out of character today, his patience has reached its limit. For the sake of the alchemy conference, he could not punish the hundreds of alchemists. But at this moment, if the two brothers Xuan and Su Ping are not punished, where is the majesty of his great elder? We must kill the chicken to scare the monkey. Bold, Yushi stood up and yelled, Su Ping. How dare you contradict me in public? According to the sect rules, this is disrespectful. Sect rules? The rules of the sect are only to obey the master of the tower. Why should we abide by the rules of the great elder? Su Ping continued to sneer, with a sharp look in his eyes, you old man, believe it or not, I will trick you. Get me? Are you still calling me old and immortal? Okay. Okay. Su Ping, it's really good. Yushi became even more angry and laughed in anger. After saying that, he looked at the other elders and ordered in a tone that left no room for doubt, capture brothers Xuan and Su Ping, and then punish them after the alchemy conference. Hee hee. What answered him was collective laughter. You damn old man, I've tolerated you for a long time. After a loud roar, Su Ping took the lead and rushed towards Yushi with his spiritual weapon in hand. Xuan followed closely behind. The two brothers' cultivation level was comparable to that of Yushi, and they complemented each other even better when working together. In just a quarter of an hour, they beat Yushi until he howled in agony. If Shining couldn't stand it anymore, he would stop him personally. These two brothers must beat the crap out of Yushi. From the beginning to the end, the other elders just looked at it and praised it from time to time. Are you all crazy? After being able to save the dog's life, Yushi hid behind Shining and asked loudly. Crazy? How could we be crazy? Xuan narrowed his eyes and chuckled. We just saw through the nature of the great elder like you are just a rat, Su Ping answered. When the two of them talked, they could no longer restrain their inner anger. In an instant, he was full of rage and let out a weird laugh of GG. When Yushi saw this scene, he was shocked. It is indeed crazy. As he expected, wherever Zhang Chen goes, people will go crazy. Xining. How can you bear such a responsibility? Yushi asked loudly. Xining was silent. Such a situation was something she never expected. She thinks she is very rational, but in this situation, how can she be rational? At this moment, she thought of Zhang Chen. She thought that Zhang Chen would make people crazy was just a rumor, but now the ironclad fact is right in front of her eyes. If you want to blame her for being soft-hearted for a moment. Let Zhang Chen, the man who has a crush on her, enter Danggu Pagoda. Bring disaster to Dangguta. Why? She and I let out a long sigh, took out the Tower Master's token from the spiritual ring, and planned to give it to Yushi. The matter has come to this, and it is useless to say more. She had to take full responsibility for this matter according to her previous promise. Yushi took it for granted and subconsciously wanted to take the token. But he just stretched out his hand, and suddenly felt the hair on his body stand up. He looked over tremblingly, and saw that all the elders were looking at him with an indescribable look. That look seemed to say, "Dare to take it, you will die. Go." At this moment, Yushi finally felt the horror of being dominated by lunatics. He also realized at this time. In the case of insufficient cultivation, he could not control this group of lunatics at all. Cough. After a light cough, Yushi pushed the Tower Master token back and said, "The specific responsibilities should be discussed in detail after the alchemy conference." Seeing his difficulties, Shilin nodded. The lunatics also looked away at the same time. In fact, Xuan and other Danggu Tower elders all wanted to kill Yushi directly, but now they couldn't. There are two reasons. First, the alchemy conference is about to start, and since Zhang Chen wants to participate, they must support him. And the civil strife in Danggu Tower will definitely make the alchemy conference completely yellow. Second, Shilin has not learned the truth yet. Even if they take action, they will be stopped. Since the death of the old ancestor and the old Tower Master of Danggu Tower, Shilin's cultivation is the highest in the entire Danggu Tower. If she is determined to save Yushi, everyone is powerless. Glancing at Shilin, who is still blaming herself, Xuan quickly stepped forward and handed over a jade slip. "What is this?" Shilin was puzzled. "The truth." Xuan straightened his expression. Shilin shook her head and felt that she heard crazy talk. After her consciousness penetrated into the jade slip, she soon heard a sentence. "I will not live long, sister, come to Julian demon sect to gather." The voice was haggard and the breath was weak, just like the candle in the wind, burning out the last ray of light. "Sister." Hearing this, Shilin burst into tears and ran away immediately. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 316. After leaving the alchemy pagoda, Xining's cultivation reached its peak. With the blessing of many spiritual energy replenishing elixirs, he traveled thousands of miles in just 2 days. Arrive at Julian demon sect. She was so anxious. As Su Ping said, Xining was lonely since he was a child, and he and Xiao Hong'ai were the only ones who were like sisters. After Xining became the master of Danggu Pagoda, the two had to cut off contact in order to avoid suspicion. When he learned that Xiao Hong'ai was crazy, Xining was worried, but overall he was calm. Because it is very common for monks to go crazy, and most of the crazy monks can return to normal with the help of some heavenly materials, earthly treasures and elixirs. But why is it so good that Xiao Hong'ai will die soon? Diamond suit. Xi Ning didn't understand, and because he didn't understand, he was even more panicked. Call. After slowly exhaling a breath of turbid air and taking a few more pills, Xi Ning continued to move forward and arrived at the Juyan sect. It was already night, but many people gathered at the sect. In addition to the leader Gu Changqing, there are also other peak leaders and elders such as Jianfeng Peak's advocate Ling Feng. Junior sister Shi is back. Gu Changqing came up to greet her with a smile as bright as spring breeze. Zhang Lingfeng and other peak masters and elders also came forward and surrounded Xi Ning in a circle. Master, fellow senior brothers. Xi Ning was so moved that tears reappeared. In fact, she has always felt guilty about Juyan section. After all, she gave up the sect for the sake of alchemy and became the master of Danggu Pagoda. That's why. After becoming the tower owner, she didn't even dare to come back and take a look. But now, she knows. Brothers and sisters, you have never thought about this at all. In the eyes of Gu Changqing and others, she is always the junior sister Danfen. Brothers, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Xi Ning covered his face and cried, his delicate body trembling slightly. What are you talking about? Gu Changqing frowned and said, Junior sister, no matter where you are a member of my Juyan sect. After saying that, he raised his eyebrows at Zhang Lingfeng again and whispered, be careful, we managed to trick junior sister Shi out, but we can't let her find out the clues and run away. Don't worry, master, junior sister has been completely surrounded by us. I understand that we are all our own, and it's better to lie than to do it hard, Zhang Lingfeng replied in a secret voice. At the same time, the master of the royal beast peak, Jinro, stepped forward, held Xi Ning in his arms, and gently comforted her. Everyone was so happy when they heard that junior sister is coming back. They have been waiting for a long time. Hearing this, Xi Ning was even more moved and started to cry immediately. As she cried, she realized something was wrong. Why was Jinro holding her tighter and tighter, as if she was afraid that she would run away? Does senior sister Jin miss me so much? It seems that I misunderstood her before and thought she was an old woman who couldn't get married. Xi Ning sighed in his heart. Soon, surrounded by Gu Changqing and others, and tightly embraced by Jinro, Xi Ning entered the Juyan sect. And the moment Xi Ning entered, the Juyan sect formation suddenly opened. Seeing Xi Ning's confused look, Gu Changqing explained, in troubled times, you need to be careful about everything. Oh. Xi Ning nodded, thinking there was nothing wrong with it. Ever since Juyan sect started wars with Buddha Temple and Lanyun sect under some inexplicable banners, it has gained a bad reputation, and they should really be careful. There's just one thing that Xi Ning doesn't quite understand. Nowadays, there are rumors outside that all members of the Juyan sect are crazy, but she looked after Changqing and others, and there was nothing abnormal. Is it really a lie? Xi Ning felt that this matter should be deduced. But at this moment, Xiao Hongai's life was not long, and even she who liked to make up her mind stopped thinking deeply. Soon, everyone reached the top of the 9 peaks. In front of him was the Zhufeng Hall where Xiao Hongai was. The lights in the hall were dim, and a group of Zhufeng disciples gathered in front of the hall, kneeling on the ground and crying. After seeing Xi Ning, Lu Yang, the great elder of the 9 peaks, greeted him and said, Master Dan Peak, please come in quickly. My peak master, she. As he spoke, Lu Yang cried. The title of Dan Peak Master made Xi Ning feel warm in his heart, secretly thinking that the Juyan sect had indeed not forgotten him. And after hearing what Lu Yang said next, boom! Xi Ning was struck by lightning. Could it be that I'm late? Her figure swayed and she almost collapsed. It's not too late, it's not too late. Lu Yang quickly changed his tone, my peak master is just waiting to see you. Xi Ning breathed a sigh of relief, wiped away his tears and said, really? My sister and I really have a deep sisterly relationship, and we still hold on to it today. The words fell. She took a deep breath. Under the watch of everyone, he pushed open the door of Zhifeng Palace and walked towards the upper-level Peak Master's pavilion. And the moment she entered the hall, squeak! The heavy hall door was closed with a muffled sound. At the same time, she seemed to hear the jaja laughter of Gu Changqing and others outside the door, and quick! Close the door. Don't let her run out. She and I had a question mark on his face. There is no need to close the door. Xiao Hong'ai was in danger at this moment. How could she ignore the sisterhood and leave directly? After shaking her head, she continued to move forward. As I was walking, my body suddenly became stagnant. Suddenly a very crucial question came to mind. Under the decree of the Empress, monks with supernatural powers and above are not allowed to come out of the world. Nin had long heard that Xiao Hong'ai's cultivation level had reached the level of supernatural power. Then here comes the problem. Xiao Hong'ai couldn't leave the sect, so how could her jade slip of message appear in the hands of Elder Dangyuda and be handed over by Elder Dangyuda? This is unreasonable. If you have to give an explanation, it is. During the period when the elders of Dangyuda disappeared, they came to Julian sect. It's not a big problem to come to Julian section, the real problem is. After the elders of Dangyuda returned, they all went crazy. Thinking of this, Shilin's heart jumped inexplicably. But the next second, she shook her head again. I really think too much. How could my sister hurt me? This habit of thinking, it seems that I really need to change. After she finished speaking, she took a deep breath and continued to walk towards the Peak Master Pavilion. When she arrived in front of the pavilion, she pushed the door open. The pavilion was as before, and the fragrance was filled. When Shilin was the Peak Master of Huandan Peak, he slept with Xiao Hong'ai here many times, and it seemed like a lifetime ago. But soon, she opened her eyes and showed an expression of disbelief. In the pavilion, she saw two people. One was an old man, with an illusory figure, white eyebrows and white hair, sitting cross-legged in the air and stroking his beard. The other was a woman, wearing a fluttering red dress, with the same face, holding a bronze mirror, standing in the center of the pavilion. No doubt. The former was the ancestor Julian. And the latter was naturally Xiao Hong'ai. Although Shilin was surprised by the appearance of the ancestor Julian, she was not too surprised. But Xiao Hong'ai's face was unstable, his expression was excited, and his eyes were full of hostility. Not to mention that there was no trace of not long for life. At this moment, Shilin finally realized that she had been deceived. She subconsciously wanted to retreat. But Shilin, come here, the ancestor Julian waved with a smile. Hearing this, Shilin's body moved forward uncontrollably and finally came in front of Xiao Hong'ai. Sister. Shilin opened her mouth to speak. SHH. Xiao Hong'ai raised her hand to interrupt, stroking Shilin's cheek and said, Sister is doing this for your own good. I have mastered this memory mirror, and you will soon be able to see the truth of this world. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Fu Zituo. Chapter 317. The next day, the alchemy conference officially opened. Hundreds of alchemists gathered at the alchemy platform below the main tower. The alchemy platform covers a vast area, about 100 meters long and wide, and is a place dedicated to holding alchemy conferences. The front seats of Danggu Tower belong to the Tower Master and Elders of Danggu Tower. At this time, Yu Shi and other Danggu Tower elders were sitting down, looking into the distance. Compared with the indifference of other elders, Yu Shi seemed very panicked. His panic came from 2 points. First, it was extremely energy-consuming to write the ancient Tower Alchemy Scroll according to memory, and it has not been completed yet. Fortunately, it is not a big problem. Although the reward for the first place in this conference is to read the ancient Tower Alchemy Scroll. But in Yuxi's opinion, this first place must belong to Lin Feng. As a family member, it doesn't matter if I read it later, and it won't cause people to find that the ancient Tower Alchemy Scroll was stolen, so it's not a big problem. And the second is, after the elders of Dangyuda disappeared and returned, Shilin, the Tower Master of Dangyuda, also disappeared. If it were normal, Shilin's disappearance would not be a big problem. After all, this Tower Master has no real power. But now is an extraordinary period. Not only does the Alchemy Conference need Shilin to preside over it, but a group of crazy elders also need Shilin, the Tower Master, to suppress them. You know. During the time when Shilin disappeared, Yuxi basically stayed indoors, worried that the lunatics would come to kill him. Fortunately, this situation did not happen. In the past few days, Dangyuda elders such as Su Ping were still honest and did not cause trouble for him. Not only that, when the Alchemy Conference started today, these elders did not make any weird moves. This made Yuxi breathe a sigh of relief. The Imperial Pavilion and many sects will come to watch this Alchemy Conference. If these people find out that most of the elders of Dangyuda have gone crazy, they will be ridiculed. After all, I am the elder of Danggu Tower. Even if I am crazy, I can tell the difference between the important and the unimportant. Yuxi looked at the elders like Su Ping and muttered in his heart. As if they noticed his gaze, the brothers Su Ping and Xuan immediately turned their heads and glared at him. Humph! Yuxi was too lazy to bother with the madman. Looking down, he looked at the alchemists again. At this moment, the alchemists were sitting cross-legged on the alchemy platform, closing their eyes and regulating their breathing. There was no scene like last time where hundreds of people lifted the tripod and smashed people. This made Yuxi nod with satisfaction again. In his opinion, the Alchemy Conference is an important event for alchemists to become famous in the central region and receive attention from the Imperial Pavilion. Even if these alchemists are ruthless, they dare not mess around at such a grand event. It seems that there should be no big problems with this Alchemy Conference. Since the Tower Master Shilin is not here, I will perform the duties of the Tower Master on his behalf, Yuxi said in his heart again. Then, he saw Zhang Chen again. He frowned immediately. Like other alchemists, Zhang Chen was also closing his eyes and regulating his breathing at this time, and did not do anything conspicuous. But, Big Brother, come on. Qingning supports you. Big Brother is invincible. Big Brother, whoever dares to surpass you, I will kill him. Roar. All of you alchemists, listen to me. If you dare to be more awesome than Big Brother, I will eat you. Qingning and others gathered under the alchemy platform and kept shouting. Silence, Yuxi shouted. Qingning and others ignored him and continued to wave flags to cheer. Zhang Hu took out a few more big flags from nowhere and handed one to Qingning and others. The words, "Alchemy is eternal, Big Brother dances alone." Yuxi shook his head and sneered at this sentence. He was very concerned about Zhang Chen's information. Naturally, he knew that Zhang Chen had not systematically studied the way of alchemy, so how could he talk about dancing alone for eternity? It's ridiculous. He wanted to order the disciples of Dangyuda to drive Qingning and others away, but after thinking about it, he decided to forget it. After all, the more Zhang Chen and others shouted now, the harder they would be slapped in the face after Lin Feng won the championship. Thinking of Lin Feng, Yuxi frowned again. There were 3 competitions in the Alchemy Conference. As the first true disciple of Dangyuda, Lin Feng only had to participate in the last competition, but today the Alchemy Conference started, he should show his face. But for some reason, Lin Feng refused politely on the grounds that the toxins in his body had not been cleared. Family members know their own business. Yuxi knew very well that with the increase of the drug strength, the toxins in Lin Feng's body had already been cleared, and he was already acting unpredictably, so this reason was not tenable at all. For a moment, Yushi didn't know what Lin Feng was thinking. The only thing that was certain was, after returning to Dangyuta this time, Lin Feng seemed to have become much more low-key. Well, not arrogant or discouraged, worthy of being the son of destiny. Yushi praised in his heart. While thinking, the leader of Wandao demon sect, with the first true disciple Nangong Juxi, and several other disciples, came to watch the meeting. A hearty laugh sounded from a distance. As the voice fell, several figures dressed in black with the golden wand character on the front of their clothes fell from the sky. Although Dangyuta is a righteous sect, it has a deep relationship with both righteous and evil sects and often trades with them. Therefore, among the sects invited this time, there are also many demon sects, and Wandao demon sect is one of them. Seeing this, Yushi and other Dangyuta elders stood up and bowed, saying in unison, Wandao demon sect, the style is still the same. You've worked hard to come from afar. You're welcome, the leader of Wandao waved his hand. The alchemy conference is a grand event in the central region, and my Wandao demon sect will naturally come to join in the fun. Glancing at the alchemists on the alchemy stage, he asked in confusion, why are there only 100 alchemists this time? Yushi was speechless for a moment, and hurriedly made up a lie. In order to consider the gold content of the conference, only alchemists with certain attainments in alchemy are allowed to participate this time, so the number of people is a little less. I see, this move is natural, the head of Wandao nodded. That being said, whether he believed it or not, only he knew. After saying almost all the polite words, the head of Wandao took a seat in the seat that had been arranged long ago. Nangong Juxi and a group of disciples of the demon sect stood behind him. With just a simple glance, Nangong Juxi easily found Zhang Chen among the hundreds of alchemists, and smiled like a flower in an instant. After looking at the other alchemists, her beautiful eyes narrowed slightly, and I don't know what she was thinking. Don't do it recklessly, the head of Wandao noticed something and quickly sent a message, people from the Imperial Pavilion will also come this time. If you do it recklessly, it will only bring trouble to Zhang Chen. Yeah. Nangong Juxi nodded and retracted her gaze. Seeing her so well behaved, the head of Wandao was slightly stunned. It's strange. Since Nangong Juxi returned from the secret realm, not only has her cultivation level improved rapidly, she has become a cultivator of the upper fourth realm, and her personality has also been restrained a lot. She is no longer like before, killing people at the slightest disagreement. This made the head of Wandao very pleased. Although people in the magic way don't need to worry too much about their actions, they must have a certain degree of propriety. Otherwise, it will only bring endless troubles to themselves and others. Suddenly, zeng! The sound of the sword shook the sky and never stopped. A middle-aged man in cloth clothes and with a straight figure came flying with a sword, followed by several young cultivators carrying sword boxes. Qiyao Sword Pavilion, the head of Wandao's pupils shrank. Qiyao Sword Pavilion is different from other first-class sections. It does not have a head position, and is jointly managed by 5 great masters. The middle-aged man leading the way is one of the 5 great masters. The 7 Stars Sword Pavilion came here, and the head of Wandao was not surprised. The only surprise was, I heard that the number 1 swordsman of the Sword Pavilion, Sushan, survived from the Xianbing secret realm by chance, so why didn't he come here? Logically speaking, at such a grand event, all the geniuses should come to broaden their horizons. Good and evil cannot coexist, and mocking each other when they meet is a basic practice. After a sly smile, the head of Wandao immediately asked with his luck and spiritual energy, why didn't the swordsman Sushan of the 7 Stars Sword Pavilion come here? Could it be that he was so scared in the Xianbing secret realm that his Tao heart collapsed and he dared not see anyone? Hearing this, the middle-aged man flying the sword froze, and he complained in his heart. It's not that he doesn't dare to see people, but that he is crazy. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 318. Too lazy to talk to sect leader Wandao, after exchanging a few words with Yushi, everyone in Kiyao Sword Pavilion took their seats. After that, many sects came, but they were all second and third-rate sects. The Buddha Temple had no intention of participating in the alchemy conference because all its talented disciples were destroyed in the Xianbing secret realm. As for the Juyan demon sect, Yushi didn't invite him at all. The reason is simple. Nowadays, who doesn't know that the Juyan demon sect is a group of lunatics, and Yushi doesn't want these lunatics to come to the alchemy conference to cause trouble. Again, after this alchemy conference, Yushi has planned to take action against Zhang Chen, so naturally he will not invite his sect over. The people from the Imperial Pavilion are here. A certain disciple of Dangu Pagoda suddenly shouted. Hearing the sound, everyone looked into the distance. I saw a golden avenue appearing high in the sky in the distance. A golden chariot on the road was being pulled by several dragons, making a creaking sound, and everywhere it went, golden light filled the air like clouds, surrounding it with dense mist. Upon seeing this, many visitors looked in reverence. Zhang Chen shook his head and sneered, vomiting in his heart, whether it is the Upper Realm Dynasty or the Middle Realm Imperial Pavilion, they like to engage in such flashy ways of appearing to show off their power. Soon, the golden chariot stopped above Dangu Pagoda. A middle-aged man wearing a golden robe embroidered with various rare and auspicious animals stepped out of the chariot and stood in the air. The middle-aged man is tall, with a broad forehead and sharp eyes looking upward, showing his arrogance. After stroking his black beard, the middle-aged man looked down and scanned the crowd. Make eye contact. Yushi, the disciples of Dangu Pagoda, and the arriving sects all stood up quickly and raised their hands in unison. I've met Mr. Ge /. The middle-aged man's surname is Zheng, whose specific name is unknown. He is one of the 3 elders of the Imperial Pavilion. Although his cultivation level is only at the late stage of creation realm, he is still an 8th grade alchemist. The middle-aged man nodded first, then frowned. Because he discovered that many alchemists and monks not only refused to salute him, but also gave him cold looks. Among them, Zhang Chen is the worst. That look was not only cold, but also revealed a strong killing intent. Mr. Zheng Ge narrowed his eyes and did not pursue further. Not being generous, but knowing that now is not the time. Before the dynasty takes action against the Fengling Zhang family, even he needs to show a certain amount of respect to the behemoth Zhang family. Floating down from the sky, Mr. Zheng Ge took a seat at a high place. Glancing at the empty seat beside him, he frowned and asked, why is the master of Dangu Pagoda not present at such a grand event? Go back to the pavilion. Mr. Yushi had known that this question would be asked, and quickly responded, the master of the tower made a mistake in refining the alchemy a few days ago, and accidentally the elixir fire entered his heart, so he had to close the door and regulate his breathing. This alchemy conference will be conducted by me. Responsible. Elixir fire enters the heart. Mr. Zheng Ge frowned. The master of the tower is also a 7th grade alchemist after all. How could such a low-level mistake happen? Isn't there a rumor that Xining's alchemy talent is extremely good? Forgive me, Mr. Ge. After all, the tower master is young and inexperienced. With his own talent, it is normal to be a little careless, Yushi said again. Elder Zheng Ge stopped replying and just shook his head. Yushi smiled slyly. He didn't mean to help Shinin escape, but wanted to take this opportunity to make the imperial court disappointed with Shinin. Although the alchemy master has an extraordinary status, in this world, strength is the most important thing. Although the Dangu Pagoda has a profound foundation, the one with the highest level of cultivation is Xining, the tower master of the creation realm. If it weren't for the support of the Imperial Pavilion behind him and his profound foundation, he would have fallen out of the first-class sect long ago. Now that the Imperial Pavilion is disappointed with Xining, then Yu Shi, with the support of the Imperial Pavilion, will naturally take over the throne of the tower. Actual. Yu Shi is not coveting the main position of this tower. But he didn't believe that Xining could lead Dangu Pagoda. Rather than letting Dangu Pagoda be destroyed in Xining's hands, it's better to let him take charge. This is also for the righteous path of the central region and the future of Dangu Pagoda. At least that's what Yu Shi himself thinks. It's almost time, let's get started. After sitting down, Mr. Zheng Ji said with a roll of his sleeves. Yu Shi nodded and prepared to explain the rules of the alchemy conference before officially starting the meeting. But he was just about to speak. Gu Changqing, the head of the 9-year demon sect, along with the sect's 6 peak masters, 100 elders, and 500 disciples, are here to watch the meeting, a loud voice came from the sky. Not long after the words fell, hundreds of densely packed spirit boats emerged high in the sky. The words 9 evolutions on the walls of the spirit boats looked extremely eye-catching. 9 Yan Demon Sect, the leader of a second-rate sect, was shocked and immediately exclaimed, "Why did you invite these madmen here?" As soon as the statement came out, the other visitors also commented. Hundreds of spirit boats, hundreds of disciples and elders. How can we need such a large formation to watch a battle? I heard that there are 9 peaks in the Juyan section. The first peak is where the head of Juyan is. The Dan peak has no owner for the time being. The master of the 9 peaks has reached the realm of supernatural powers and cannot go out. Doesn't this mean the peak masters of the 9 evolution demon sect are coming out together? This is not just watching a battle. I'm afraid we're not here to cause trouble. These lunatics are simply terrifying. How dare they do this despite the Empress order? Today's Dangu Pagoda won't follow in the footsteps of the Lanyun sect, right? Probably. His Juyan demon sect is well deserved. How is this the demon sect? It's obviously the crazy sect, right? After hearing this discussion, Yu Shi and the disciples of the ancient alchemy pagoda all had their faces as dark as water. They really didn't expect it. I didn't expect that Juyan sect, who didn't even receive an invitation, would dare to cause trouble in front of the Emperor's elders at such a grand event. They are indeed crazy. Quickly open the sect formation, Yu Shi shouted hurriedly. Not long after the voice fell, several divine lights came out from the towers around Dangu Tower, spreading along the surroundings, and finally gathered at the top, surrounding the entire Dangu Tower. Seeing hundreds of spirit boats being blocked outside the formation, Yu Shi breathed a sigh of relief. He glanced at the squinting and silent Zheng Gilao, and his heart skipped a beat again. If such a grand event is ruined by Juyan sect, Dangu Tower will lose all its face. We must find a way. Anxious in his heart, Yu Shi saw Zhang Chen, Qingning, and others again. His eyes lit up immediately. Aren't there many excellent hostages? Let's not talk about Zhang Chen first. Qingning and Mu Kui are both the geniuses of Juyan sect, and they will surely make Juyan sect cautious. Lord Zheng, Zhang Chen, and others must be the accomplices of the demon sect. Juyan sect ignored the order of the Empress and wanted to start a sect war against our Dangu Pagoda. They must be severely punished. Yu Shi bowed to Lord Zheng. Lord Zheng said nothing, but nodded slightly. His statement represented the meaning of the Imperial Pavilion. Yu Shi instantly became confident and ordered the disciples of Dangu Pagoda to capture Zhang Chen and others. Zhang Chen could only sigh helplessly. He did not expect that his own sect would be so bold as to make trouble at this critical moment. But he was not a person who would surrender without a fight. He immediately summoned the blood sword and prepared to kill everyone. Qingning and others also had murderous intent on their faces, not afraid at all. And just when both parties were ready to act, let's see who dares. The elders of Dangu Pagoda jumped out at the same time to stop them. This frightened the disciples of Dangu Pagoda, and no one dared to step forward for a while. Yushi's face instantly sank like water. Just as he was about to use his prestige to continue urging Deng Gyuda disciples to take action. Suddenly, a pretty woman floated out from the hundreds of spirit boats in the sky. Standing in the void, the woman held the Deng Gyuda token and asked coldly, "Elder Yu, are you old and deaf? Didn't you hear that Juyan sect came to watch the alchemy conference? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 319. The one who spoke out was none other than Shinin. In the past, Shinin was arrogant and fond of brainstorming, but he was still quite friendly. But she is now. Not only were his words sharp, but there were still tear stains on his pretty face, and his expression was extremely cold. A discerning person can tell at a glance that something's wrong. Even to this day, the scene of the 9th life flashback is still reappearing in her mind. At Xiao Hongai's strong request, Lanyun ancestor Fan Tong untied the essence and blood binding to the memory mirror and placed the mirror completely under Xiao Hongai's control. Perhaps it was because she was unfamiliar with operating the treasure mirror for the first time, or perhaps she wanted to make Shinin, the sister, better understand the pain of Zhang Chen's 9th life. Xiao Hongai adjusted the speed of the memory mirror to the limit. In just over a day, Shinin was able to look at it no less than 10 times. While watching, Shinin burst into tears over and over again. She cried for Zhang Chen and also for herself. She had never thought that Zhang Chen, the seemingly notorious nephew, would actually have such an upright and kind side. Unexpectedly, during my 9th reincarnation, I actually had a good impression of Lin Feng, a beast. She regrets it? I regret that I agreed to Lin Feng's apprenticeship with Deng Gyuda in this life, and even more regret that my accidental appearance last time saved this destined son from being buried alive. At this moment, Xining would feel sick whenever he heard the word Lin Feng. In the 9th reincarnation, Lin Feng couldn't walk when he saw a beautiful woman. In the end, he killed the girl in order to ascend. And this life. This son of destiny is even more disgusting. He actually has thoughts about men. Not only his master, but also Zhang Chen didn't want to let it go. Undoubtedly, even if he is a madman, Xining still likes to make up his mind and has no doubt about his own making up. Once, for the sake of Deng Gyuda's reputation, she chose to treat these things as if she didn't know. But now, after learning the truth of this world, how could she help Lin Feng hide it again? As for Deng Pagoda's reputation, Xining said, what does this have to do with her? If in this life, Deng Gyuda still becomes a puppet of God like it did in the previous 9 lives, and does not distinguish between good and evil under the banner of righteousness, then it would be better to be exterminated. Thinking of this, first using the token in his hand to cancel the Deng Pagoda's formation, Xining immediately used his cultivation to shout, Lin Feng. This son of destiny has a habit of cutting off his sleeves. He and his master, the great elder of Deng Pagoda, Yu Shi, there is an extraordinary relationship. The sound was mixed with spiritual energy and slowly spread out. Hear the words. All the disciples of Deng Pagoda opened their mouths in an O shape. Incredible. After all, he was the son of destiny, and as the great elder of Deng Pagoda, Yu Shi had always had great authority. Too dazed, the disciples looked at Yu Shi and other Deng Pagoda elders. At this time, Yu Shi was already confused. First of all, Shinin's appearance and abnormality made him confused. Secondly, there was innocence between him and Lin Feng. Yu Shi never dreamed that after living for most of his life, someone would spread rumors like this, which would put him in danger of death. Nonsense. Pointing at Xining, Yu Shi shouted quickly, The Tower Master's breath fluctuates, his eyes are full of violence, and his mood fluctuates. It's obviously a sign of madness. You actually believe what a crazy person says. The disciples quickly looked around and found that it was indeed the case. Xining is indeed abnormal. Am I crazy? Xining sneered, looked down at Yushi, and yelled crazily, "It's not me who's crazy, but you perverts." Yushi's mouth suddenly twitched. The disciples felt sorry in their hearts and all took a few steps away from Zhang Chen. This made Zhang Chen speechless for a while. He is innocent. He also didn't expect that Xining, a female supporting character, could go crazy and bring all the lunatics from the Juyan sect. Yes, I brought it. Zhang Chen didn't know that Xining was missing. He only thought that Xining was a madman and found his companion, so he specially called all the madmen from Juyan sect to come. Uncle Master, you still can't hold on after all, Zhang Chen said, heartbroken. His shouting was ignored. At this time, the disciples of Dangu Pagoda and the arriving guests were still immersed in Xining's madness. What Xining said just now was also regarded as crazy talk. I testify. The Great Elder and Lin Feng do have an ulterior secret. Sensing the change in the direction of the wind, Elder Xuan stood up to express his stance. Su Ping also stood up, looked up at the sky, his eyes flashed with memories, and he made up random things one after another. It was a dark and windy night. The Great Elder called me to Lin Feng's house on the pretext that he had something important to do. I thought it was something important, but unexpectedly I saw the Great Elder and Lin Feng. Hey, I can't speak, he rolled his sleeves and turned his head. Do not. You've finished speaking. What are you doing? Everyone shouted in their hearts. Although Su Ping hadn't finished speaking, disgusting pictures had already appeared in everyone's minds. Nonsense. Nonsense, Yushi was almost furious. Originally, for the sake of Dangu Pagoda's reputation, there were some things that couldn't be said. But at this moment, for the sake of his innocence, Yushi had no choice but to risk his life and shouted, although the two brothers Su Ping and Xuan are fine on the surface, they are actually crazy. Not only them, but the elders of Dangu Pagoda except me are also crazy. This statement made everyone look suspicious. The disciples of Dangyuda blinked in confusion, not understanding the truth of the matter. At this moment, the alchemist Dong Yao stood up from his cross-legged position. His expression was normal, and his face was calm, which made people see nothing unusual. Glancing at Yushi, Dong Yao said loudly, "What do you think of me? Do I look like a madman?" Looking at him, everyone shook their heads. I believe many people know that Yushi taught me and gave me the 6th grade spiritual fire. Can you believe what I said? Dong Yao asked again. Everyone nodded. Yushi's heart skipped a beat, and he had a bad premonition. But before he could stop him, Dong Yao had already started talking. It was also a dark and windy night. I took advantage of the opportunity of the transaction between Linjiao Mountain and Dangu Tower to visit Yushi. It was that night that I caught Yushi and Lin Feng's scandal. At that time, I was just a beginner in Yuandan, and I didn't even have a chance to run, so I was caught by Yushi. And Yushi gave me two choices, one, to kill and silence me. The other is join together. Wow. When these words came out, everyone was in an uproar. Then how did you choose? Master Wandao couldn't help but ask curiously. He. Dong Yao smiled palely and burst into tears. I am still alive now, which is a choice. Hearing this, everyone was silent. They understood what Dong Yao meant. Feeling angry and pity. Alas! You have suffered after a long time, Master Wandao sighed. The other sect leaders and disciples also looked at Dong Yao with pity. This is the law of the jungle. In the face of absolute power, the weak have to compromise in order to survive. At this moment, everyone completely believed the secret of Lin Feng and Yushi. After all, who would rather defile themselves than frame others? Even if they are crazy, it is impossible. What they don't know is that this is the elite among the crazy people. The fighting power is far beyond that of ordinary crazy people. At the same time, everyone glared at Yushi. Yushi had no way to defend himself, so he had to step forward for help from Zheng Ji Lao. Ji Lao, this is slander. I think Dong Yao may also be crazy. You have to do it for me. The words were not finished. Get out. Stay away from me, Zheng Ji Lao stopped him sternly. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Fu Zituo. Chapter 320. Yushi realized what social death is. There were piercing sights all around. Everyone who came from each sect had contempt on their faces. The Dangu Pagoda disciples, especially the male disciples, could not help but shrink their necks and did not dare to look at him. Even Mr. Zheng Ji secretly spat. He felt that even if he jumped into the Yellow River, he would not be able to clean himself. He even wanted to die. He wanted to hide his face and escape, but his strong sense of integrity made him stay. The Alchemy Conference is a stage prepared for Lin Feng's rise, he must hold on. Furthermore, if you hide your face and run away at this moment, you will have truly confirmed your special hobby. For today's plan, there is only. Yushi looked at Zhang Chen coldly. In his opinion, Zhang Chen must have driven all the elders and alchemists crazy and poured dirty water on him. This revenge must be avenged. If you leave now, you will only follow Zhang Chen's wishes and let Zhang Chen no longer have any constraints in this alchemy conference. But if he stays and continues to host this alchemy conference, not only can he get revenge, but he might also be able to find an opportunity to expose Zhang Chen's conspiracy and thus clarify himself. Call. Thinking of this, after slowly exhaling a breath, Yushi said with firm eyes, "Why would you want to accuse me? Today, I don't even bother to argue with you. Let's wait until the alchemy conference is over." Hearing this, everyone looked contemptuous. No one expected that Yushi would be so thick-skinned. So far, he still has the nerve to stay. On the other hand, look at Zhang Chen. From beginning to end, he was just confused and silent. Having read the original work well and having been reincarnated for 9 lifetimes, he naturally knew that these were all slanders. He also couldn't understand why the elders of the Alchemy Pagoda and even the alchemy master Dong Yao were so determined to throw dirty water on Yushi. But he is happy to see this happen. The reason why he remained silent was because he knew that if he, the villain, got involved, others would think there was something fishy going on. Glancing at Dong Yao who was still sobbing, Zhang Chen frowned. He felt that this person was probably crazy. Otherwise, you would never be able to do such a thing, killing 1,000 enemies and damaging yourself 999. But the problem is, I can't tell. In any case, Zhang Chen decided to stay away from Dong Yao. This person is definitely a wolf killer. Hurry up to the meeting. I'm here to observe the meeting, not to hear these scandals. Mr. Zheng Ji, who was sitting high above, suddenly spoke. Glancing at the people of the Juyan sect above, he added, "The Juyan demon sect is here to watch the meeting, so sit down quickly. Otherwise, it will be disobeying the Empress's edict and should be destroyed." Glancing at him indifferently, Gu Changqing and other members of the Juyan sect had anger floating in their eyes, but they did not act recklessly. Although everyone is crazy, they are very clear. There is absolutely no benefit in going against the dynasty at this time. After smiling calmly, Gu Changqing led his disciples out of the spirit boat, floated down, and sat down next to Qiyao Sword Pavilion. This made the Grand Master leading the Qiyao Sword Pavilion look confused. Why did these crazy people come to me? To know. Although there are more people coming from Juyan sect this time, other locations can fully accommodate them. Just when Grand Master Qiyao looked confused, Gu Changqing had already approached him and asked, "Where is your divine ancient sword from Qi Yao Sword Pavilion?" Grandmaster Qi Yao's expression froze and he glanced at Zhang Chen. "Where are the 7 killing swords from your Qi Yao Sword Pavilion?" Gu Changqing asked. Grandmaster Qi Yao's expression became even stiffer. "By the way, I'll give this to you." Gu Changqing suddenly took out several low-grade spiritual stones. Seeing Grandmaster Qi Yao's confusion, he explained, "Zhang Chen is the pillar of our Juyan demon sect. The last time Qi Yao Sword Ancestor helped him resist thunder and overcome tribulations, this is a little bit of your thoughts for our section." Grandmaster Qi Yao was furious when he heard this. Not so humiliating. Others don't know, but he knows it very well. Even to this day, Qi Yao Sword Ancestor is still brooding over this matter and is in seclusion and doubting his life. At this moment, Grandmaster Qi Yao also saw it. The reason why Gu Changqing and other members of the Juyan sect came to sit next to him was clearly to humiliate him. Qi Yao cannot be humiliated. Grandmaster Qi Yao opened the box and drew his sword, and the sound of the sword resounded all around. Seeing this, Gu Changqing quickly complained to Mr. Zheng Ji on the high platform, "Mr. Ji, Qi Yao Sword Pavilion wants to cause trouble. It should be destroyed with 5 orders." Mr. Zheng Ji was speechless. Grandmaster Qi Yao was almost angered to death. "Who is provoking trouble? Don't you have some clues in your mind? Qi Yao Sword Pavilion, go and take a seat elsewhere." After a while, Mr. Zheng Ji gave instructions. "Why my sword pavilion?" Grandmaster Qi Yao was dissatisfied. According to him, if you want to change seats, it should be someone from the Juyan sect. What he didn't know was, Mr. Zheng Ji actually wants Juyan sect to do it instead, but the problem is that he doesn't think these lunatics will listen to him. In the end, Grandmaster Qi Yao led the disciples of Jianj and left with gritted teeth. "It's not that I'm giving in. Juyan sect has so many people and so much power that they won't get any benefit from a fight." After Qi Yao Sword Pavilion left, Juyan sect did not continue to cause trouble to other sects. Gu Changqing took out a huge spiritual drum from his spiritual ring, rolled up his sleeves and started beating it. Dong, dong dong. The sound of the drums was deafening, resounding all around. The shock made the monks with lower cultivation levels feel dizzy, and even the monks with higher cultivation levels felt extremely noisy. Just when Mr. Zheng Ji frowned and was about to say something to stop him, the drums paused. The masters of the 9 Yan Mountains took the lead. The Juyan sect members stood up at the same time, took out their own spiritual weapons, beat them rhythmically, and raised their chests and heads, shouting loudly, "Juyan sect, invincible! Juyan Tianjiao Zhang Chen! Invincible!" Oh! The shouts were deep and rolling. At the same time, the hundreds of spiritual boats belonging to the Juyan sect above simultaneously urged the spiritual cannons to the sky, and the sound of cannons was shocking. Noisy. Zheng Ji Lao couldn't stand it anymore and shouted loudly, "You are making so much noise, are you going to start a war or watch the meeting?" "Please forgive me, Ji Lao." Gu Changqing bowed slightly. "The first place in this alchemy conference must be our sect's Tianjiao Zhang Chen, we are just celebrating in advance." Zheng Ji Lao was speechless. The other sects were also speechless. They all complained in their hearts, as expected, a madman is a madman. This alchemy conference hasn't even started yet, and they are celebrating in advance. Those who don't know would think that there is something fishy about this alchemy conference, and Zhang Chen has already been decided as the first place. Humph. Zheng Ji Lao was too lazy to talk to the madman, and ignored him after a cold snort. Seeing that the people of Juyan sect became honest, Yu Shi shouted loudly, "The alchemy conference is officially open." "Shut up! Get out!" Shi Chen suddenly appeared and kicked him in the back. After staggering, Yu Shi immediately fell flat on his face. After standing up, Yu Shi wanted to get angry. But thinking that he was only the elder, and Shi Chen was the master of Dangu Pagoda, he had to swallow his anger and leave in frustration. The authority to announce the opening of the conference was handed over to Shi Chen. Yu Shi thought. Although Shi Chen was crazy, he was still somewhat rational. Now that Huanga Ji Lao was here again, he would not dare to act recklessly. But who would have thought? In public, Shi Lin stood in the air and shouted directly, "The alchemy conference is over. The first place in this alchemy conference is the senior brother of Zhu Feng of Juyan sect, Zhang Chen." As soon as this was said, the whole audience was full of question marks. "Oh!" The Juyan sect members shouted again in unison. The head of the sect, Gu Changqing, looked pleased and bowed to the people around him. "Ha ha! Thank you for your concession. In front of my Juyan Tianjiao Zhang Chen, no matter how hard you try, it is not enough." The whole audience was even more confused. What's going on? This alchemy conference has not even started, and it's over?